Alright class, we're working on exercise number 1 at the end of chapter 6 of your textbook. This time I'm going to use our ACAD 3D template, which is feet and inches and preset up for 3D. You can really work in any template you like, but this is a little bit more set up for the environment that we're working in. Alright, so this shape is obviously a solid model. It has 3 through holes and it should be fairly straightforward to create. So the first thing to do is check our units, make sure we're set up correctly. Again, we want to be inches, and we need to have, looks like a precision of hundredth. And for some reason my computer is not responding. Here we go. Inches, decimal, hundredths. Okay. So let's start by making, there's different ways we can do this. We'll do this with some base solid shapes. If you don't have your workspace turned on for the 3D, you can go in here, go to workspace, and then within the workspace menu, you might have different options here. In my case, I don't have the 3D right now, so if you have 3D, you can turn on your 3D modeling workspace to make this a little bit more user-friendly. But anyhow, what I'm going to do is start with, excuse me for 1 second while I get my note out here. We're going to start with the base shape, and then we're going to add to it and then finally subtract from it. So we'll start by creating a box, which is the box command. So I'm going to pick just somewhere in space for the corner, and we don't want a cube, so I'm going to specify L for length, and the length of my box is going to be the 4 inches, which is the base of this object. The width of my box appears to be 1 inch on the drawing, and then the height of my box is another 4 inches, and then that completes my command. So here I've created a 3D box. Now something looks a little bit odd kind of through my grid. It appears to have dropped that box on at a really crooked geometry. Now if you've had that happen, erase it and start over. Looks a little bit better. I wonder how it got crooked. So L for length. Oh, I see. It's because I had my ortho off. Got to have your ortho on. F8 when you're defining your length. 4, width 1, height 4. That looks a lot better. Now I can orbit it around, 3D orbit, so I can see this in the correct orientation, just like in the book. The next thing I'm going to do is make another box to represent this upper appendage. So I'm going to do box. Again, I kind of like to do this off in space instead of stacking objects. So our length, make sure your F8 is turned on. Our length is, looks like 2, but I'm going to add in 0.75 because it hangs beyond. So 2.75, and then our width is the same 1, and our height is 0.75. So I'll leave it right where it is. Now to do the other box that's going vertically, the other appendage, I'm going to type in box, pick a corner point. So our length, now I've got to hit F8 every time, just a word of warning, when you start doing in length, it overrides your ortho. In this case, the length will be 0.75, the width will be 1, and the height, I'm just going to plug in 2 in this case because it'll fit right underneath our previous shape. Now if I take and I move from this outer corner using my O snap F3 to that outer corner, I have those two stacked together neatly just like they're going to go on the shape. Now I also have a few cylinders to add to the end of these shapes, and now's the time to do it. So I'm going to type in the command cylinder, and this again is what you would have on your 3D ribbon if you had that turned on. So I'm going to pick just out in space as my base point. Let's look at D for diameter and 1. And now my height is 0.75. So follow the prompts on the screen to get that. Now I can move this, and here's the trick. I'm going to move from the center point of the top to the midpoint of what I just picked. And if you don't see midpoint, you don't have it turned on, so you can type in mid, enter to override, and then place it there on the midpoint. To get that turned on for good, you may have this little O-snap icon. You can click and turn on midpoint as well. Maybe perpendicular too. Alright, now let's do another cylinder for the bottom here. And in this case, the cylinder is being drawn in the XY plane, so what I can do is either draw the cylinder and rotate it or change my UCS. In this case, I'll just draw it and rotate it. So cylinder, base point, just picking space. Diameter is still 1, and our height is still 0.75. Okay, now I can use my 3D rotate command, pick my object, pick a base point, and I'm going to rotate about the green axis, which is the y-axis, and type in 90, enter. So now it's rotated to the correct plane. I can move this cylinder from, again, the center point to the midpoint of that shape there. Now once we have this appendage created, probably the best thing to do is move it in place, and then we can union all of our objects together. So M, enter for move, pick all your line work going from this inside corner to that outside corner, and now they're stacked up. And if you don't like this view, it's kind of washed out, I can't see my lines extremely well, we can go to like a conceptual or even just work in a hidden if that helps you. And I kind of prefer hidden at this stage because I can see where objects are not connected. Now this is all one part, a machined part, so I'm going to type in union and select all the objects and hit enter, and that makes them into one solid object, which is very helpful as we move forward with this design. Now the next step, or the last step rather, is to create our through holes. We have a through hole through the top and the right, and then one right through the face. So to make the through hole, we'll do the face first. We should have our UCS in that orientation. So if I do UCS 3P, enter, pick the origin, pick the X, and pick the Y. Now I'm on this plane, which is helpful. And I'm going to give myself that cylinder. So this is where I told you, hey, you can change your UCS and then draw, and you don't have to rotate it. So cylinder, and I'm going to this time draw it based on the corner. My diameter is 3, D enter, 3 enter, and my height will be the 1. And some folks like to overdraw, which I'll do. We'll make it 1.5. That way you can be sure that it trims all the way through. So I'm going to move it to the right. Turn on my F8, my ortho, to the right 2. I'm going to move it straight up 2 again. Now remember, I made it a 1/2 inch too thick, so now I'm going to move just that cylinder out 0.25. So now if I was to orbit around, you'd see how it's extending out both sides a little bit. Now our command, which you should be saying in your mind, is subtract. We added before, now we're subtracting, so you pick your base or your base object that you want to keep, enter. Then you pick the object you want to cut away, enter. And that center cylinder completely trimmed out. So we have almost complete part. Now let's finish our through holes. I like this type of drafting because it's just like it would be manufactured. We've got to drill holes through each end. So again, we've got to change our UCS. UCS 3P. We'll do this one first. Pick the endpoint for our origin, X and Y. So now we're reoriented on that plane. Now we'll do another cylinder. We can draw maybe on this base point. Our diameter is 0.5, and our height is going to be, you know, probably around 1.5 inches or something, but we'll just go ahead and make it 2 inches so it's extra long. Think of a drill bit in this case. Longer than the hole you're drilling. So move it to the left half the distance, which is 0.5, and now it's centered. Now I'm just gonna freehand move this drill bit, if you will, through so I can see it on both sides of my object. You can see how it's all the way through. And before, I'm trying to think out loud here. Before I cut it out, I can save some time by using that. I'm going to do UCS 3P and put my UCS back over here just because. And I think I can do a mirror. Let's see if we can make it happen. MI for mirror, pick that guy, and I think I can mirror it from this corner to this corner, which is 45 degrees. There it is. Enter, and that saved me having to recreate that through bore. I could have done that earlier on with this top appendage as well. Now that I have both of those through, I'm going to type in, you guessed it, subtract, pick your base object, and then I can pick as many as I want to trim away. So I'm going to pick them both and hit enter, and both of those holes are drilled through. Let's change back to our maybe conceptual. I don't like that. We'll go to realistic. Turn off that grid because it's just in the way. Orbit. You can see how that hole is all the way through. That hole is all the way through. And our object looks just like what we have in the textbook. Way easier than creating a wireframe model and trying to apply surfaces to all of these surfaces. Much more powerful, and we don't have to clean up any of those pesky edges that exist after 3D face command. So hopefully that all made sense to you. Thank you for your time, and let me know if you have any questions.